Americans are going to begin seeing the $1,200 stimulus check in their bank accounts this week. That's only if they gave the IRS direct deposit information when they filed their taxes. Now, David Dayen over at American Prospect has reported something pretty devastating and disturbing about how banks can garnish those stimulus checks in an effort to pay debts that are owed by their customers. The way that the stimulus bill was written did not offer protections from the banks from being able to do that. So again, this is a scoop from the American Prospect. This is excellent reporting. Keep in mind, as we give you the details of the story, that the stimulus bill, also known as the CARES Act, does offer $500 billion in bailouts for big corporations, but $450 billion of that money can be leveraged into $4.5 trillion. So that's what the massive banks and the corporations are going to get. And then on top of that, they can go ahead and take away what little crumbs Congress gave us in this stimulus money. So Dayen reports the stimulus money may not make it into the hands of those who need it to pay bills, buy food, or just survive amid mass unemployment and widespread suffering. Individuals might have to fend off their own bank, which has been given the power to seize the $1,200 payment and use it to pay off outstanding debt. Congress did not exempt CARES Act payments from private debt collection, and the Treasury Department has been reluctant to exempt them through its rulemaking authority. That means the individuals could see their payments transferred from their hands into the hands of their creditors, potentially leaving them with nothing. So I'll give you a potential scenario where someone receiving this kind of money would see it disappear from their bank account. Let's say you're in a tight spot. You've been in a tight spot. We've been practicing social distancing for quite some time now, and maybe you were laid off and you weren't able to pay your bills. Many Americans actually do, unfortunately, rely on overdrafting money from their checkings account. So if this money, this stimulus money, gets transferred into that same account that you've done overdraft charges on, well, then the bank can use that money to pay off your overdraft charges. It really is sick. And the thing that's also frustrating is that Congress, after writing this legislation the way that they did, knowing that there wouldn't be protections for the stimulus money or the stimulus check, they went to the Treasury Department and demanded that the Treasury Department offer protections. But the Treasury Department is run by Steve Mnuchin, who absolutely did predatory maneuvers in the housing market following the 2008 crash. His bank, One West Bank, went ahead and did fraudulent paperwork in order to foreclose on people's homes. So what makes anyone think, any lawmaker think, that Steve Mnuchin or the Treasury Department under his watch would do anything to protect average consumers, average Americans, and prevent these big banks from taking that stimulus money?
Yeah, it's like telling a shark, hey, watch out, there's sharks in the water. He's like, yeah, I know. I'm the one who put them there. I mean, he benefited from the worst kind of deregulation from the banking or for the banking industry. He took advantage of that, crushed the little guy, made money off of it. And what does our society do in a situation like that? We don't say, oh my God, what an embarrassment, how shameful. No, we celebrate him. Oh, he made money. He's so successful, wonderful. And now he's the Treasury Secretary. We put him in charge so that he could help other bankers rip you off. So, Anna, my only problem with this story is that, like, I'm at near capacity on outrage. I really am. Like, so, you know, all you're getting is $1,200, and without asking you, that's the part that just, you know, all this talk from the Republicans of freedom. Yeah, you know why I'm voting for Republican? Liberty, freedom, right? And we say, all right, well, shouldn't you have the freedom to decide what to do with the money that you're getting because of this coronavirus pandemic that's wiped all of us out? Nope, you shouldn't have freedom there. The banks should be able to just take your money without even asking you. So congratulations. That's the freedom that the Republican Party just gave you, to get robbed by the banks, because they're run by the banks.
Right. So I also just want to mention some of the Democratic lawmakers, like Sherrod Brown, for instance, Elizabeth Warren, are urging the Treasury Department to write the rules protecting consumers and average Americans from having this money taken away from them from creditors. However, there have been a few Republican lawmakers who have joined along with that. But look, I'm not giving anyone brownie points for doing that. The legislation was written in a way that allowed for the banks to do this. Why? Why would you do that? There was an easy way to prevent it from getting to this point. So as Dayan writes, the payments are defined as tax credits and not federal benefits, making them subject to garnishment, in which a debt collector that wins a judgment in court can seize anything of value held by the debtor. Why did they write the legislation that way? Why didn't they consider this a, one-time federal benefit so that money would be protected? The whole point of the economic stimulus was to help out. It was supposed to help out Americans who have been laid off and they don't know how they're going to pay their bills. Really, the only good thing that came out of that stimulus plan was the beefed up unemployment benefits, which I will admit are robust. But the only problem with that is the unemployment system is so overwhelmed right now that most people can't even apply. So people, again, average Americans are completely left, unprotected, screwed over. And we're having conversations about the $4.6 trillion these massive corporations are going to get in bailouts. This is insanity.
So Josh Hawley's a Republican senator from Missouri. He's on the right side of this, too. We're more than happy to give credit to anyone from any party or any wing of any party if they're doing the right thing. On the other hand, injustice reigns supreme. So almost all the Republican Party is on the wrong side of this. And most Democratic Party barely cares. So, yes, credit to the folks who do care, like Sherrod Brown and others who are pressing the point. And there's way more Democrats pressing the point than Republicans. By the way, another group of people who don't care, mainstream media. Are you ever going to see this story on cable news?
You know what? Let me just say something, because when I heard it, my jaw dropped. I did not expect it. Jake Tapper mentioned this story.
Wow.
No. Like, Jake Tapper has these moments of clarity every once in a while where I'm like, you Jake Tapper, what's going on? He mentioned the American Prospect. I'm like, are you reading the American Prospect? Good for you, Jake Tapper. I know. I mean, this sounds like a backhanded compliment, and it is.
It is.
Because you don't expect that on cable news, but I am grateful that it was mentioned, because this is something that not only Americans should know about, they need to know how the sausage is made, right? So they need to know how this legislation was written and how unbelievably unfair and uneven the economic relief is when it comes to the little guy versus the massive corporations.
In the old days, I used to say that, as much as Tapper frustrates me, he is from time to time the best of those cable news anchors, because every once in a while, he'll do a story like this and it'll be fair, it'll be smart. And I say that despite the fact that he has been terribly unfair to me personally. So it is what it is. I'm glad he did that segment. We always give credit where credit is due. But the New York Times, the World, et cetera, on average, mainstream media, they cover things that affect the powerful. Every once in a while, they get a Pulitzer Prize because they did one story a year about the powerless. And so the average guy is going to get screwed by the banks, but there's going to be no outrage, right? And even so, even if they cover it, they're in their ethos, they're not allowed to have outrage. They just have to report it neutral. Some people think the banks should rob you, and others think that they shouldn't rob you. And we're not going to call it robbery when they take money from your account without your permission. We're going to call that garnishing. And so, and there's up for debate, can't quite tell. And anyway, but what's important is for you to know who's doing this to you. Yes, it's the banks that can do it to you, and now they've been given the power to do it to you, and soon we'll be reporting that they did in fact do it to you. That hasn't come yet, because the checks haven't come yet. But the people who made it possible, no question about it, Donald Trump, Steve Mnuchin, they're the ones who made this decision. And so when Donald Trump told you he was a populist, he said, okay, you gotta look out for you, the average guy, blue-collar workers. I'm your guy. I'm gonna look out for you. No, secretly he says, oh yeah, the banks, rob them blind. What do you think I did? Now, how do you think I built my career? Trump University, Trump Foundation. It's all based on robbing the little guy. So rob away. Those banks are his donors and his best friends. He's an elitist piece of crap who's a fake populist. That's who Trump is. And Mnuchin is just this hatchet man who knows how to execute the robbery better. That's why he was hired.
You know, Cenk, you're fake news. You're a phony. You're fake.
I took money out of your account.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, one other thing to add insult to injury, banks have made it much more difficult to apply for loans and to refinance. And one of the reasons why a lot of Americans are looking to do that right now is because interest rates are even lower. And so the banks have been able to take advantage of that. But now they're making it difficult for people who wish to refinance, so they pay less interest on their loans. It's just disgusting. Anyway.
Yeah, one last thing about banks. So look, the banks are facilitating the small business loans from the CARES Act, and they're doing a fine job at that because they're getting paid a commission, so they're motivated and incentivized to do that. Nothing wrong with how they're executing that so far as I can tell. Okay, so we're always fair. It's not like, oh, boo, we hate all banks. No, what's the bank doing? And let's look at a program by program and tell you if it's good or not good. Now, on the other hand, every once in a while, right-wingers will say, oh, no, we're giving money to the banks because they're going to facilitate lending on their own. It's going to be easier credit. That means you don't know anything about banks. It's hilarious. Like the bank's going to be like, oh, since I have free money, I will give it to you in the middle of a crisis where I'm less sure about your financial standing. But out of the goodness of my heart, because the government gave me money, I'll give you easier credit. That's not a thing. No. Anybody who thinks that's a thing is a total idiot or much more likely, brazenly lying to you.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.